What's up, everybody? Welcome to Fireside Chat, our bellwether show on the Everyday Athlete Podcast Network. I am your host, Jason Bahamundi, and I am going to be doing a solo show today for all of you. Sometimes guests forget days that we're going to be recording. Sometimes they don't confirm. Who knows what happens? This is real life. And real life is for me to tell you that I also broke my microphone right before we went on the air. And I am now holding it. So we'll see how well this goes and for how long I can hold this microphone. Before I dive into this solo episode, I do want to ask you to do me a favor, which is subscribe, rate, and review to the Everyday Athlete Podcast Network, wherever you get your podcast. If you use Spotify or YouTube, which is where the show is also being distributed, please be sure to comment. It helps us with the algorithm and getting the show ranked higher, but it also gives me great pleasure when I open the app in the morning and I see comments from the audience about something that was said, about things that they are interested in and want to learn more about. It's really awesome to see, and it just makes everything feel as if I'm not just talking to myself, or that my guests and I aren't just talking to each other, and that other people are listening. So help us out. Drop a comment, drop a like, subscribe, rate, review, share with your friends, share with everybody. I would appreciate that. So let's get into it a little bit. One of the questions we ask on our Enduring Minds episode is who is, and then the person's name. So I'm going to ask myself that. Who is Jason Bahamundi? And you would think I have a lot of practice at answering this question, being a podcast host, being the face of Run, Try, Bike, and the Everyday Athlete Clubhouse. But the reality is, it's not something that I'm often thinking about. And so when we ask this question of our guests on the Enduring Minds show and Fireside Chat, and even Joe does it on Beyond the Finish Line, I haven't answered then. But it's hard to answer that question when you're on the spot. And it's also something that's going to change on a regular basis. So as of today, which is January 13th, this episode will come out on January 20th. The reality is, who is Jason Bahamundi? I would typically answer that with, I am a Puerto Rican kid who was born in New York, grew up in the Bronx, moved to the suburbs, and eventually meandered his way across the country and now runs a media company. That's surface level type stuff. That's things you could probably Google and find out about me. But it's also a part of how we get into the other components about who I am. So when I tell you I was born in the Bronx and grew up in the Bronx, you can imagine being surrounded by many different cultures, many different skin tones, many different people. And we're all just doing our thing to make sure that we survive. My parents did the best that they could with my sister and I and moved us out to Rockland County. And I think life shifted tremendously for me then. And it's probably taken me somewhere around 40 years to find out who I am today at the age of 52. And so I'll walk you through that a little bit. We moved to Rockland County, and all of a sudden I'm in the suburbs, leaving the city, leaving the streets of the Bronx, leaving the grade schools that I went to, and everything was different, just totally different. We were no longer in an apartment, we were in a house. Um, you didn't have that sense of community, I would say, that you have in an apartment building when you're coming and going and you seeing familiar faces all the time, and you're asking people, how are your kids? How is your mom? How is your grandmother? And all of a sudden you're pulling into a driveway, into a garage, and walking from there to your house, as my parents' house had it laid out. You weren't talking to anybody. It was a weird world. It was a strange world. And so now you're trying to make friends. You're trying to fit into this new area, fit in with new people, new thinking. Everything was new. And I will say that while I did make friends there, I don't know how close I got to people when I was living there. I went from sixth grade all the way through high school in Rockland County. And I loved my time there on the surface. But the older I get, the more I think about what it was like and who I was. And they're not one and the same when it comes to the kid from basically age 12 to age 18 before he went to college. And I think that's where some of the slippery slope stuff started to happen for me. When I say slippery slope stuff, it's identity. It's getting involved in alcohol and drinking, which lasted a very long time. I go back to identity and the things I was trying to be versus the person who I was and the person who I am. So I'll walk you through this a little bit. I started drinking in high school while I played football. In high school, played for one of the better football programs in the state of New York. Actually, was a starter for a team that won the Section 9 title in high school, which may mean nothing to you guys. It really doesn't mean much to me nowadays either. But we were a competitive team, and we had a lot of different faces and different cultures on that team, which was amazing. And it was really cool to be able to have when the two middle schools merged into one. But started drinking then. And I went to college. After graduating high school, I went to SUNY Oswego. And in all honesty, the drinking just kept going. I got on campus on day one, pledged a fraternity, felt at home with those guys at SIGEP in New York. And we did what fraternities do. We partied, we drank, we played intramural sports. That was a huge thing for us. We were the kind of fraternity that was a true brotherhood in all senses of the word, meaning if you had a problem with one of us, you had a problem basically with all of us. And it was amazing to be a part of, but the drinking kept going. I graduated. I went to back downstate, lived with my parents for not that long before I got a job. And that job was a couple of years, managed to find my way into Manhattan. And once I made my way into Manhattan, it was a lot easier to find alcohol and drink and make my way through corporate America, made my way all the way up to a vice president role for a company that made a lot of money, to be honest with you. I had a great salary, had a great job, great benefits, all of that good stuff, right? So the painted picture of climbing the ladder looks and sounds awesome. Things were great, right? There was something missing, which is why I kept going back to drinking. I did get married. On the first half marathon I ran, she met me after the race and told me that she was moving out and was going to be filing for a divorce. And so, as you can imagine, right, tailspin, what's happening in the world? What is going on here? So many different questions, not enough answers. Kept drinking. And after a little bit of doing that, I was like, I need a fresh start. And so I left New York and I moved to Dallas, Texas. But I didn't really start over again. I just brought the drinking with me. I was running away from all kinds of stuff, I guess you could say. I was running away from uh, the divorce. I was running away from not knowing who I was and trying to figure out who I was and being uncomfortable in that setting. And it was not a familiar space for me moving from New York to Texas. Two different worlds, different cultures, different approaches to life. Things were different. And I tried to find my way in the world there. But one of the things I found myself doing was going back and placating people and trying to be somebody that they weren't. Now, I wasn't, I should say. Now, this is in retrospect. This isn't something I was recognizing at the time. This is me looking back and saying, holy shit, I was not the person I thought I was then. And have come to a really big description in my life in figuring out who I was through all of those years in Dallas, Texas, and trying to fit in instead of being myself, right? So carving off pieces of my personality to try to be a part of instead of letting my personality showcase who I was and being out there. I finally quit drinking, and my personality is sort of like all or nothing. And so it wasn't like I'm going to taper the alcohol off. I just quit one day. That's it. Stopped drinking. I think it was about 15 years ago. And there was some enlightenment in the world. Not much, because I was still trying to shoehorn myself into um, who I thought people wanted me to be. I think that's something that people do a lot. I was absolutely one of those people, like trying to be something that other people would be proud of instead of me being proud of myself. And that's a really rough place to be. Um, I did get divorced a second time about 5.5, 6 years ago. And since then, it's been an amazing ride. And it's now starting to hit an apex of understanding who I am and the things that I want to do, the things I want to accomplish, the person I want to be. So, as you can imagine, leaving the Bronx, going to an area that I knew nothing of, and then moving to Dallas, Texas, that I knew nothing of, and becoming, as my sister has pointed out, she's watching on Facebook, a functioning alcoholic. Um, but I still had things I had to overcome. Now that I wasn't drinking alcohol, there were still pieces of me that weren't full. And one of those things was always trying to placate others, always trying to appease others, always trying to make others feel better about who I was, as opposed to me feeling better about who I was. And that took me into some disordered eating. And that has not been squashed, shall we say. I deal with it to this day. Just the other day, I was sitting around eating dinner, and part of me was like, should I eat another bite? What's that going to do to my weight? How is that going to impact my running? How is that going to impact my goals for my first marathon in 14 years? And I have to really deal with who I am when it comes to food and how I battle that disordered eating. Because for me, and the media shaped this vision I had, which was skinnier is faster, right? The lighter I am, the faster I will be. And I want to show people how fast I am. And I want to prove to people that I'm a good athlete. And I want to let them know that I can do hard things and run fast and cycle fast and swim fast and be the fastest Ironman and all of these things. And so I still battle that to today. And it wasn't until recently where I've finally started to say to myself, this is not a fun way to live, right? This is unenjoyable. Like, I want to be able to eat ice cream or eat an Oreo or eat a Pop Tart and not have to think about anything. Like, just enjoy it, right? Think about this for a minute. You open a package of Pop Tarts or an Oreo or a pint of ice cream, whatever it is. And instead of thinking to yourself, I can't wait to enjoy this, you're thinking to yourself, what is this going to do to my calorie count? What is this going to do to my body? What are people going to think of me eating ice cream or Oreos or bread or whatever it is? It's horrible. It is paralyzing. It is unenjoyable. And it is something that I continue to work my way through to today. And I can say with honesty that starting Run, Try, Bike and starting with the Everyday Athlete Clubhouse and who these athletes are and who I'm surrounded by and the enjoyment that we are getting from being around each other has allowed me to enjoy eating and having fun and laughing. Like one of my guys, one of my best friends, and I said this to him while we were on the Clubhouse roundtable, is Santino Williams. And one of my favorite things is I ask a food question on Food Fight Friday, and his answer is never simply yes or no or I love that. It's always something around, well, did I just run 5 miles or did I just have lunch, or I don't know. He has like a thousand different scenarios in which he's answering this question, and it made me realize the relationship with food isn't going to just be one thing, right? One day I might like something, and the next day I don't, and I've grown to love that, and I've grown to love this idea of food is meant to be enjoyed, and more accurately, is also meant to be shared, and it's something that I remember my parents doing. Basically, every Friday, our aunt and uncle used to come over and they would go out to dinner and they would have a blast and they would share meals with each other and laugh with each other. And we would always have big family dinners during the holidays. And that stuff always brought me joy and happiness, and seeing people enjoying food and coming together and telling stories. And I think that's just super awesome. And I want to get back to that. I'm working my way back there. And so now you can kind of get an understanding of who it is that is talking to you through the Run Try Bike pages and the Everyday Athlete Clubhouse on our Slack channel and hosting these podcasts. Is a kid who was born in New York, grew up in the Bronx, moved to Rockland and Westchester County, climbed the corporate ladder, dealt with alcoholism, dealt with disordered eating, has been divorced twice, deals with stress on a daily basis. I cannot tell you that the stress I deal with is like I just brush it off my shoulder, because I don't. I care deeply, and that leads to a lot of stress. I care about my sister. I care about my friends. I care about my family. I care about this business. I care about the members in this business. I care about our marketing partners in this business. I worry about whether or not all those people are getting enough out of me. And sometimes that stress causes me to not get enough out of myself, and puts some paralysis into what is going on. And the stress is there. As a matter of fact, I carry stress in my shoulder. And about 2 weeks ago, it caused me so much pain. January has been and is a shit month for me for I cannot recall how long now. I think Laura and I talked about it being about 6 years. It's always been a shit month. I've dealt with partners leaving the business in January, advertising partners leave in January when they redo their budgets. Like, things just always happen in January. Not to mention the civil unrest that we have in this country, because Renee Good gets murdered by ICE just recently, or January 6th insurrectionists try to have a coup of the American government by trying to overtake the Capitol in the White House. So many things happen in January, and it just absolutely sucks. And so I've been carrying this stress, and I finally made an appointment with a doctor who, as my sister can probably attest to, and Lori would if she was on this show, I don't go to doctors. And I think part of it has been because we grew up in the hospital. My mother and my father worked in the hospital, and we were always there, and it was always just this feeling of illness and death. And I've avoided doctors for so long for that reason. But I finally made an appointment because the stress and the knots in my shoulder have been so much in terms of what we are dealing with in life personally, and then in life as a society. And so I hope you're getting a little bit of an understanding of who is the person behind the mic. When we laugh and tell jokes, Lori and I often say it's the trauma, especially if somebody's like, "Oh, you're so funny." Yeah, it's the trauma. It's how we deal with it. Before I continue on, because I've got some notes here, I want to take some comments I've seen coming in on Facebook. And my sister is on here along with our guy, Joe Harden, and my cousin, Monique. So my sister said that it's funny that I'm bringing up my disordered eating and my alcoholism, and she's commending me for being so vulnerable. She just recently saw her doctor and realized that her quitting smoking was an addiction that led her to having a food addiction. And she's headed in the right direction. And she thanks me for being such an inspiration. And I want to let her know that she's an inspiration too. She's a mother to a fantastic young man who is going to be doing even more amazing things in the world. And It's really awesome for me to have a nephew and to honestly rekindle my relationship with my sister, which had been sort of missing for a while I was dealing with my second marriage, and in a way where I was hiding from the world because it just wasn't one of those things that um, I wanted people to know about. It was just another trauma filled scenario, and so once I got out of that marriage, I've been able to connect with my sister and Lori, my wife, deserves a lot of applause and credit for that. Before I read some more comments that are on Facebook, I will say this. Lori deserves so much credit. When we first started talking and dating, I mean, she point blank said to me, Jason, you are a Puerto Rican. You need to let people know you're a Puerto Rican, be proud of being Puerto Rican, and it's your heritage. You should celebrate it. And that was like a permission that I hadn't even given myself that I was getting from her. And she has always encouraged me to get in touch with friends and family and unite with them and talk with them. And she's the catalyst for me getting back in touch with my sister on a more regular basis than had for the previous 12, 13 years, I would say. And that relationship has now also led to me talking to my cousins. Monique is on the show right now with us, and she joins us during our What's in Your Earbuds on Mondays. And her brother Joey, who's my cousin, obviously as well. And I've had dinner with another cousin, Dawn, a couple of times because she lives out here in California as well. And it's been really, really cool to be able to connect. To if I had hair, to let my hair down and be who I am instead of being somebody who I think others need to be, thought I should be. Let me rephrase. Um, Going back to some of the comments on Facebook, our guy Joe is congratulating my sister on quitting smoking and that he had smoked for almost 20 years before he gave it up. My cousin says she carries her stress in her shoulders also. It's awful, isn't it, Monique? Like your shoulders are up near your ears on a constant basis. It's like you've been doing deadlifts or traps, I guess, for hours on end with the heaviest weights you can possibly find. Um, Let me see what else is on here. Yep, stress is my biggest trigger for my ulcerative colitis, excuse me, which is an autoimmune disorder that my cousin deals with. And she talks about her addiction to smoking cigarettes. She quit about 12 years ago, and that is just amazing to see. So I've written some notes here as well. I've given you the sort of who is Jason Bahamundi in my history. But one of the things I have written down is a handful of questions. And the questions are, why do people matter? Why do connections matter? Why does RTB and the Everyday Athlete Clubhouse matter? And I think it's because for so long, I ran away from relationships and connections, but I also think I wasn't present in those relationships and connections because I was either embarrassed about who I was either drunk and didn't know where I was, or I was trying to be somebody I wasn't. And so people matter because it's how we learn about ourselves, it's how we learn to grow. Um, I will talk about my guy, Joe Harden, here. And if you looked at Joe, if you ever saw a picture of Joe, white dude, lives in Indiana, has a mustache. If I painted that picture for you, you automatically have, or I gave you those words, you automatically have a picture of Joe. And that's the same picture I had. And then we start talking. And he's like, yeah, I love the Wu-Tang Clan. Yes, I listen to rap and hip hop. And I had, I'm a recovering alcoholic and I'm on a sobriety journey. And I'm also an engineer and I do woodworking and I want to be a race director and I want to bring people in and show them that they are loved and diversity and inclusion matters to me. And what can I do to help people feel more comfortable around me? And that's why people matter. And that's why connections matter. And that's why talking to people matters. uh, Santino, who is Cuban, he's Russian, and he's Jamaican. He is from the Bay Area, and he now lives in Arizona. And it is amazing to have met somebody at above. I'm over 50. I'm 52 years old. So past 50 years old and be able to connect on a deeper level. And it's because I've been able to open myself up. The doors aren't fully open, but they're opening. And the more I open my own doors, the more people come in and the more life it gives me. Um, when Lori and I were in New York and Philadelphia recently, we met with Kennis, we met with Amanda, we met with Thomas, and we met with Jackie. All people that are either in the Run Try Bike community or people that are in the Everyday Athlete Clubhouse. And for each one of those times we sat down to have lunch or coffee or even dinner for that matter, we hung out and we talked for 3-4 hours. Zero phones. Nobody was recording it. Nobody was like, oh, this is great content. Let's do. No, we connected with each other and we opened our doors to who we are to each other. And we were able to connect on a deeper level. And that to me is everything. And I think that's why connections matter. And that's why people matter. And that's why Run, Try, Bike in the Everyday Athlete Clubhouse matters to me. I had a conversation with Coach Jamie North earlier today, who is a member of EAC, and I asked her, what can we do to make it better for you? Because I want when people come to EAC to be able to open that door to who they are so that they can feel welcomed by all of us. Because once we show some vulnerability, once we show some honesty, once we show some openness, people connect with us. And that grows us as a person and it helps the community that we have grow as well. And when I go to our Slack channel and I see people congratulating each other on what you might think is the smallest of things. Rose Scoville said, I went to the gym twice this week. That might be zero importance to somebody who goes to the gym 7 days a week. But in our crew, that was everything. And we celebrated her. And that was her being vulnerable. Like, please clap for me. I went to the gym twice this week. That is huge. And I think the more we can do that, the more we can connect with each other, the more we can understand each other. And that doesn't mean we're going to always agree with each other. That doesn't mean that we're always to row the boat in the same direction. I'll be on, like, let's play a fun game here and let's be a little bit ridiculous. I am never going to eat pineapple on pizza ever. But that doesn't mean I won't sit down with somebody who will. I can respect their choice to eat pineapple on pizza. I'm just not going to do it. And I think if we can learn to have conversations with each other without belittling each other, without smacking each other down, without telling each other, oh, you're an idiot or you're a dumbass or why would you do it this way, right? Ask a question, but think about how you ask that question. Let's say somebody did something and I didn't understand it. Instead of being like, oh, that's just a dumb way to fucking do it. Why wouldn't I say, oh, that's interesting. I wouldn't have thought of doing it that way. Why did you do it that way? And let that person explain. Because guess what, homeboy, you don't know everything. And that's okay too. I don't know when we decided that we had to know everything about everything. And then we get into arguments and fights with each other because we know everything about everything. Meanwhile, we don't know shit about anything. Let's be honest here. And so when I think about people and I think about community and I think about connections and why they matter, is because it allows me to be a better version of myself, which allows me to then help you become a better version of yourself. And isn't that the ultimate goal? To help each other be better instead of belittling each other, instead of knocking each other down, instead of telling each other, oh, you ain't worth shit. Like, no, let's build each other up. And instead of getting to the top of the mountain and pulling the ladder away, why not reach a hand down and help somebody come up that same fucking ladder with you? Like, why is that such a bad thing? Why are we so afraid to help other people? This isn't a zero-sum game. There is plenty to go around. And there's actually more when we collaborate and partner with each other and help each other out. instead of saying, oh, there's only but so many crumbs on the table. That's horseshit. There's plenty out there. Work together, help each other out, build those connections, tell somebody you love them, let them know how important they are to you. That is why all of this stuff matters. One of the things I worry about when we talk about Run, Try, Bike and the everyday athlete community is how big does it get? And is there a loss of connection? That matters. Like, you don't understand how long I spend or how much time I spend worrying about whether or not I will be able to connect with people when the company gets larger. I worry about it now. I worry about whether or not the person who joined EAC sometime in September of 2025 is getting enough from me and from us. Imagine when it's thousands. I know I've got a great team around me, but we're going to have to continue to build that great team. We're going to all continue have to be surrounded by people like Joe, who just wrote Build a Bigger Table. Yeah, that's what we want. We want to build a bigger table and bring people who are going to help people. But I worry about that. Like, that's wild, right? Like, hey, what are you going to do when you have, 1,000 people in the clubhouse? Man, I don't know. I don't have an answer. I hope that I can connect with all of those people and be a leader for those people and show up for those people and then have those people lead me and hope that those people can show me the way simultaneously. And we've got a great team. We've got a great community. We've got great people already here. And so when I can't do it, I know Joe will step in. I know Derek will step in. I know Santino will step in. I know my sister will step in. I know Monique will step in. We're going to be doing the Clubhouse Roundtable. We're going to be recording it this Sunday, and we're bringing a guest on, Ryan Reynolds, and love that guy. One of my favorite people to have interviewed multiple times on different shows, reading his Substack, having him participate in What's in Your Earbuds. And he is coming on our show. And I know that if we needed him to step up and do something, he would. And I think that is the thing that gets me excited about growing this business to levels I can't even imagine being at right now, in all honesty. Yeah, we're going to build a bigger table, Joe. As my sister points out, you are the woodworker, and she's ready for her seat. And so my cousin points out that she's ready to sit at any table with all of us, and I appreciate that. I mentioned the Clubhouse Roundtable. If you haven't had a chance to go check it out, it is exclusively on YouTube, although you can go to runtrymag.com and check it out. My vision for this show was born out of having seen The Barbershop with LeBron James, but then more recently, I saw Carmelo Anthony talking to Timothy Chalamet on his own show, meaning Carmelo Anthony's show, and they were just shooting the shit. They were just talking about how Timothy Chalamet was at Carmelo Anthony's first game at the Garden as a New York Knick, having come over from Denver. And it was wild, like the connections and the smiles and the laughter and the just telling of the stories. And that's what I wanted to have. And so I reached out to Derek and Joe and Santino, and immediately they were like, "I'm in. Let's do it." And so we've launched the Clubhouse Roundtable. It's 4 guys sitting around chit chatting with each other. Each episode, we have one of the 4 of us drop a topic in, and we talk about it, and then we just let it go wherever it goes. It is not interview style. It is not Q&A. It is just all of us talking to each other. Hopefully Joe gets his internet fixed this time, so we don't have that squelching, squealing sound that we had in episode 1. But it was just perfect because that's who we are. We're not perfect. We're not polished. We're not buffed. We're not going to come at this with some, Netflix budget. We're coming at it with 2 nickels, a broken microphone, and chit-chatting along the way and just laughing with each other and having a great time. So the Clubhouse Roundtable comes out every 2 weeks. It is just an extension of who you see on Instagram, who you see on the EAC Slack channel, who you see on Threads, just a little bit more in depth, more vulnerable, more honest, more open, more masculinity than the toxic masculinity bullshit that we see. In other words, Derek, Santino, and Joe, I love you guys. You mean the world to me. I am there for you whenever you need me to be. That is what I'm talking about when I say masculinity, not the toxic masculinity that raw, I'm hard and go hard and oh, I broke my leg in 7 places and I still, man, fuck out of here with that shit. That's nothing. That doesn't mean anything. Showing up for your boys, standing up for your wives and your aunts and your nieces and your sisters and your cousins. That is what it's all about. As a matter of fact, I didn't. This just popped into my head. I recorded a "Do Better, Be Better" a few weeks ago, and um, I was talking directly to men. Y'all got to be better. Seriously, you just have to be better. Stop sliding into people's fucking DMs and harassing them. Stop telling people that they're not worthy. Just cut the crap out. That ain't tough. That ain't masculine. That is somebody hiding a trauma that they're too afraid to go to therapy to deal with. How do I know? Because I fucking did it. Yeah, I've gone to therapy, but I hid behind the alcohol. Then I hid behind athletic performance. And I did all that shit. And the only way I was able to get out of that is by doing stuff like this, sharing my feelings, being open, being honest. And I'm not asking you to do it, I'm telling you to do it. The world will be a better place when you start dealing with your crap instead of burying it, instead of hiding it, instead of running away from it. So, men, you got to be better. Period. End of story. Be better. Uh, Joe, that's a great comment. If you could have okay-ish internet, you would be unstoppable. Dude, you're unstoppable now. The pictures you post from your run commute, the woodworking that you do is awesome. Keep sharing that stuff. Keep putting it out there. It is amazing to see. I absolutely love it. As a matter of fact, bring a piece on when we record this weekend with Ryan Reynolds so that we can see the woodworking that you do and showcase it there, dude, because that stuff is amazing. So yeah, please go check out the Clubhouse Roundtable. It's people being open, honest, vulnerable. We're going to be sarcastic. We're going to laugh at each other. We're going to poke fun at each other. We're going to laugh. We're going to have serious conversations. We're going to tell stories. We're going to do it all there. And it's just going to be like as if you were at a dinner party sitting around a table hanging out with us. So show up to the Clubhouse Roundtable. One of the things I also wanted to talk about today is I'm going to do more blogging. I'm going to do more writing, maybe some more vlogging as well. But I'm going to do more writing and sharing my feelings about my growth as a person through 2026. One of the things I made a commitment to was to be more honest, more vulnerable, more open. And I want to do that in a number of different ways. And I know that not everybody will read articles on runtrimag.com, but maybe they'll watch a video. And so I want to do that. I want to be more open and honest and vulnerable. And I think one of the first things that I need to do is to be more vocal about the things that are happening in society. You know, I often say to myself, if you don't know what I believe in, just look at the logo for Run Try Bike on our website, on our social media channels. There's a pride flag there. And that's just not enough to just have the pride flag there. I don't believe. I think people need to hear from me or read things that I write about my beliefs and my views of what's going on in the world. And I'll start with this. We oftentimes say running is cheap, running is free, running is easy, running is therapy, and we give running all of these accolades, which in a lot of cases it most absolutely deserves. Running is therapeutic. It is not therapy. You have an opportunity to go and run and process things, but that is not somebody asking you the hard question. All you're doing is running through different scenarios in your own mind and talking to yourself. Go to therapy and talk to somebody else. Have them ask you the hard questions. Have yourself dig deep into who you are and bring out the true person of who you are. So running is therapeutic. It is not therapy. Running is also a privilege. And privilege isn't always financial. There is a financial component to privilege. If you have the money to buy new running shoes, to buy new running gear, to buy the nutrition and the hydration and register for races, that is a privilege. Running as a person of color is different than running as a white person. That is also privilege, and you need to recognize that. That is not to say that you're doing something wrong when you're a white person running. All I'm asking you to do is recognize that it is a privilege, that when somebody of color is running down the street, who knows what cop has just had a bad day and is looking at that person and wondering, why are they running? Who knows what somebody sees when a person of color is running down the street and might think to themselves, oh, you know exactly what I'm saying, right? If you're a woman and you're running and women no longer putting their hair in braids for fear of having it be pulled on by somebody, think about that for a moment. Like, I'm a bald, white presenting male. I have run on a trail in Seattle dozens of times, maybe 100 times. And Lori ran past this one section on the trail, and she said to me, "You run past that outhouse, that A-frame?" And my response was, "I have no idea what you're talking about. I've never seen it." And it is literally 20 feet into the trail. And I had never once seen it because I was never once worried about what might be on the trail or in the woods by the trail. Never once. Yet Lori, as a woman, is on high alert and saw that. And she was like, I am not going there ever again because somebody could hide out in there. Men, we have a lot of privilege when it comes to running. White people also have a lot of privilege. And please don't take that as a knock. I'm asking you to just recognize it and have empathy and understand what somebody who doesn't look like you is going through as well. Not just financial, it's also gender based, it's also our skin tone, it's location. Some people live in areas where roads aren't paved. It's a privilege to run on a road that's paved in some places. We live in West Hollywood. We got streets, we got street lights, we got people, we got cops, we got all kinds of stuff here. Whereas somebody might be running in rural America and they don't have any of that stuff. And so they can't see at night if they're running on in an area that doesn't have paved roads. That can lead to injury. That can lead to people hiding out because there's no street lights there either. Like, we need to stop kidding ourselves that we all have the same stuff. Okay. Let's talk about the same 24 hours in a day. What a crock of shit. What a crock of shit. My 24 hours looks totally different than the single mother who's working 2 jobs to put food on the table for her and her kids. My 24 hours looks much different than the person who's making a 6-figure salary and lives in, a house with maybe 7 figures for that matter. Let's bump it up. And maybe they have help, a nanny or a driver or all kinds of things. We do not all have the same 24 hours. So cut the crap with that. That is bullshit and nonsense. Okay? Our 24 hours are different than our neighbor's 24 hours. And we need to recognize that. We need to talk to each other and communicate with each other and ask, how can I help you? And how can I help you to enjoy these things? How are you seeing the world? Help me understand it. Before I get into this a little bit, Kathleen Smith joined me on Facebook or joined us on Facebook. Thank you, Kathleen. And she wrote, "Yep, buns always, as in her hair, less to grab when we talk about ponytails on women." My cousin says she won't go to the gym in her development alone, especially at night, because she never knows who's going to be there. Right? Think about that stuff. That's where we are at. But if we would be more open with each other and talk to each other more, we could have more of these conversations and understand that some of these things need to be put in place so that people feel safe, so that they can grow and become better and get healthier. I don't even know where I was. I totally lost my train of thought before I jumped into that. Oh, here's where I was. Last year, we did a Hispanic Heritage Month, and we had 10 Hispanics from different cultures: Argentinians, Cubans, Puerto Ricans, Mexicans, sharing what it meant to be Hispanic and to be an everyday athlete. And what was really cool is that as a Puerto Rican, I got to hear other stories of other Hispanics sharing what it meant. And it helped me get in touch with my own self and my culture. And then we did a Native American Heritage Month celebration. And Mariah Zavala helped me so much. I think we wound up with 10 or 11 stories. And the stories from the Native Americans and what it meant for them to be everyday athletes connected to their culture and the land and their people was moving, beyond moving. It opened my eyes to a world that I didn't know existed. And it was amazing. And then I got to spend some time at the Every Woman's Marathon with Rising Hearts and Jordan and Mariah and Angel and Lace. And I'm sorry if Callie was another one. And if I forgot you, I apologize. But I got to see the stories unfolding in real life because we were there with them. And I sent an email last week to Black athletes and asked them to record videos of what it means to be a Black everyday athlete so that we could share it during Black History Month in February. Because I think when we hear these stories and we see these athletes telling us their story, we can connect better. We can hear what it means to them to be an everyday athlete and to show their pride in who they are and their culture and their connections to their families, past, present, and into the future. Because I think when we connect in that way, then we can start to strip away the gatekeeping. We can start to connect with each other on a level we didn't know that we could connect with each other on, because a lot of us are too busy protecting our own, right? We're protecting ourselves. We're protecting the things that we want to protect so that you can't get it, which is wild because there's so much. It's in abundance. But I think that when we are able to do that, we're able to hear each other. We open up the opportunity to ask questions of each other. We open up the opportunity for others to ask questions of us and have dialogue with each other so that we can all grow and learn and get better and provide a better future for friends and family. And I think that's just so important. So my goal, I told them, was to have, by the way, it doesn't, I didn't miss the fact that Black History Month is also the shortest month of the calendar year. And so when I talked to Des Taylor Douglas, who I asked to record a video, I said, there's 28 days in February. I would love to have 56 stories from Black athletes. Like, let's double the number of days so that it's a reminder to people that Black athletes can also participate in endurance sports, running, swimming, cycling, triathlon, because we don't often see them at the starting lines. And that's something that was a part of the ethos when I launched Run, Try, Bike If you've never heard it before, the vision and mission for the company is to prove that there is a spot at the starting line for everybody and every body. And a lot of that is because we typically don't see people of color at the starting line. We don't see people with physical challenges and disabilities at starting lines. And I want our queer brothers and sisters and non-binary athletes to feel welcome at events too, because these sports are amazing. They are life changing. And the only way we do that is by opening up our arms and welcoming them in. Um, and so, yeah, that's kind of what I want to do in February. And I've already reached out. If you're listening to this podcast episode or you're watching it live, do me a favor, connect me with your athletes, and those friends that you have who are Black, so that we can highlight them on Run Try Bike's celebration of Black History Month, which is 100 years. 100-year anniversary of celebrating Black History Month is 2026, and so it would carry a lot of meaning, and being able to showcase athletes from all different backgrounds, different parts of the country, and everything else. Um, we're at about 51 minutes into this show, and I could probably talk for a very long time and go well past an hour. I'm going to try to keep it to an hour. One of the things that Santino and I are doing this year is we are going on a run club tour, and we are going to be going to Oakland, Salt Lake City, Pittsburgh, San Francisco, Seattle, and Lebanon, Indiana, where our guy Joe Harden, the race director for Hustle in the Heartland, that's going to be our last event of the year. And if you're hearing this or watching this, come hang out. Oakland Marathon has various distances. So does San Francisco. So does Salt Lake City. So does Pittsburgh. Beat the Blurch is a fun race where you're trying to run away from Blurch, and once they catch you, your race is over. So it's as long as you want it to be, and you're eating donuts along the way. I mean, come on. And then Hustle in the Heartland's an 8-hour 1-mile loop. So come hang out, run 1 hour, run all 8 hours, set your PR at a distance, set your PR at a pace, come hang out with us. We purposely chose these events because of that reason. We wanted everybody to be able to show up and run in these events and hang out with us before and after. We had a great meeting with the Oakland Marathon earlier today. We're going to be hosting a panel discussion about the Oakland community, about the event and the race happening. And it looks like it's going to happen on February 5th at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern through Zoom. And so we'll be putting some information out about that. But I talked to David Monaco, who is the director of marketing for Run Local events. And what a good dude. We talked about how the Oakland Marathon has a drop down under gender for male, female, and non-binary, how they have an opportunity for physically challenged and disabled athletes to identify as they are and be able to have some accommodations for their physical challenges and disabilities. Karen Pruitt, who is a member of the Everyday Athlete Clubhouse, whose son Caleb has Down syndrome, had asked me if I could talk to them about IDD, and I did, and I've now connected them so that potentially Oakland Marathon puts something in there for IDD, which is intellectual disabilities and disorders. And so athletes who have IDD, such as Down syndrome, like Caleb, can attend these events and get the things that they need. And it's really cool to have been able to talk to David at the Oakland Marathon about this. And I'm really excited to go on the Run Club tour to do this. But part of the reason why we want to do this is to not just run these marathons and hopefully hit our 3-hour and 45-minute goal, but to connect with people out in the space. Because I think what has happened over time is we've fallen behind these squares on Instagram or on Facebook or on TikTok or whatever, and we've lost that connection to each other. And so by going out into the public and meeting people in real life and running with them and breaking bread with them and drinking coffee with them, we're going to be able to develop a deeper connection to each other. And as we say here, build a bigger table so that our community can thrive and flourish. So if you're thinking about any one of those events that I just mentioned, give me a holler, DM me, email me, jason@runtrimag.com, and ask questions about what we're going to be doing and how we're going to be doing it. And while I'm here talking about the Run Club Tour, shout out to Coach Sabrina Lott, who is helping me put together some events in the Oakland area. Shout out to Des Taylor Douglas, who is helping me put events on in San Francisco when we go there. And shout out to Val Porter, who is going to be helping me put on events when we go to the Pittsburgh Marathon. Joe, shout out to you. We've already got some stuff in the works for when we're in Lebanon, Indiana for Hustle in the Heartland. And so I'm looking to connect with people in Salt Lake and in Seattle as well, which will probably be Chrissy Murphy to help us with Beat the Blurt so that we can put on some of these events and let people come and hang out and have some fun and laughs and get some running in and just chill with each other. This has also led to the opportunity that we're exploring for Everyday Athlete Clubhouse seal of approval for races. We've already had a couple of inquiries into that for 2027. So if you're a race director listening to this episode and you want to get on the Run Club tour and be approved as an Everyday Athlete Clubhouse race, DM me, email me, jason@runtrimag.com again, and let's have that conversation. We've got a handful of things that we have as criteria to become an EAC approved event. And how we can partner with you to help promote you and your race and get more and more people to the starting lines, because that is our ultimate goal when it's all said and done. What else can we talk about here? We talked about EAC. Oh, we've talked about the Run Club tour. We haven't really talked about EAC. So EAC, the Everyday Athlete Clubhouse, is a virtual run club where you are going to get exclusive content from us. You're going to get an invitation to our Slack channel so that you can talk to other everyday athletes, no matter what it is. You're asking for gear recommendations from, gloves to run with, to shoes, to race kits. We also ask you for your birthdays and what races are coming up, because we want to celebrate you and your amazing accomplishments all along the way. You'll get a welcome box. Inside that welcome box, there's some goodies and then some discounts from some merchandise partners of ours that you will get as well in there. And you'll have access to exclusive podcasts that go on the runtrimag.com website, as well as exclusive articles. I also invite you, if you are an EAC member, if you don't want to start a Substack, if you don't want to start a podcast, do it on our platform. We can put your article behind the EAC paywall so only members can read it. We can put your podcast behind EAC so that only EAC members can see it. There's a lot of benefit to this community. We've gotten testimonials left, right, and center that have said that it's the most welcoming and supportive run club or endurance sports club, honestly, because we do have triathletes in here, as well as people who are hikers and just cyclists and just swimmers in the clubhouse. So come and join us. We have made it relatively inexpensive. And I say it that way because I know for some people, $15 for a yearly membership or $25 for a lifetime might be more money than they can afford. So it's relatively inexpensive. If you want to add one of our Enjoy the Journey hats to it, you can bump that up to $40 and $50 respectively. And by the way, if you join on a yearly membership and buy the hat, it goes back to $15 a year. It doesn't stay at $40 a year, just so you know that. Yeah. So I've been chit-chatting for an hour. I hope that you have gotten to know a little bit more about me. I will ask you this. If you have questions, please ask them. And the reason why I say that is because oftentimes I might believe that you already know things about me, and you might not. And so if you don't ask the questions, I can't answer them for you, right? So ask me questions. I said my goal for 2026 was to be, that was too many 20s, right? I said 2020, 2026. Anyway, for 2026 is to be more open and vulnerable. So ask those questions, drop them in our Everyday Athlete Podcast Network posts, drop them on Instagram, drop them on Threads, email me, jason@runtrimag.com. I'm going to be open. I'm going to be honest. I'm going to be vulnerable, and I'm going to be me. And I've said this before at the start of the year. I'm going to say it again. If there are advertising partners that don't like me for me and they decide to leave, I'm willing to do that. I'm willing to risk the company that I've built so that I can be more open and honest and vulnerable, so that I can speak out more about things that I find unacceptable in the world today. And if that offends some people, they're the ones that are going to need to figure it out. And I say this often: you have two thumbs. You don't have to comment on everything that we talk about. The same two thumbs that you're getting ready to use to comment in a negative way, use them to scroll by. Use those two thumbs to block, to mute, to unfollow. That is okay too. More than okay. Um, we are here for everybody and everybody. We don't tell people that they don't belong here. We tell people that they do belong here. We want you here. We want to hang out with you. We want to talk with you. We want you to be part of the family. Okay. And if that's something that you're not comfortable with, it's okay to not follow. It's okay to not do business with us. Plenty of other places to go. Trust me when I tell you that. So I'm going to sign off. I've been talking for an hour. Really appreciate you hanging out with me for the last 60 minutes. Be sure to subscribe, rate, and review the Everyday Athlete Podcast Network on your favorite podcast platform. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. We have two shows that are exclusively on YouTube. I talked about the Clubhouse Roundtable. Santino and I are also documenting our year in training and racing for the EAC Run Club Tour. It's called Beyond the Training. We've done 3 episodes already. We'll be doing another episode here real soon, so that will come out on the 18th. I don't know. It's coming out soon. Anyway, so those are exclusively on YouTube, but you can also get them through runtrimag.com, where we embed the YouTube video there. So make sure you hang out with us. Make sure you comment on our posts. Make sure you share our posts if you love what we do, because that's how we continue to grow the community. That's how we continue to build bigger tables. That's how we continue to change the world. This is how we take those gates that keep getting put up and knock them down. Share, review, comment, all of that stuff matters, even if you don't think that it does. A simple comment: I love this episode. Thanks for sharing. Stuff like that, it means the world to us, and it helps the algorithm push us out to more and more people. So don't forget to subscribe, rate, review, and comment. I love all of you. Thank you so much for joining me, especially those of you on the live. Thank you to my sister. Thank you to my cousin. Thank you to Joe. Thank you to Kathleen for joining me on the live. I really appreciate it. Come back next week when the Fireside Chat returns, which is January 20th. My guest on that day is going to be, I'm going to screw up her first name. I think it's Monica Herford. It's going to be a fun conversation. Be sure to come and hang out with us. And I'll see you next week on the next Fireside Chat. Thanks, everybody. Have a great one.